All right, everybody, welcome to another deep dive with us. This time we're tackling the XEC variant. You've probably seen the headlines. Maybe you're a little freaked out, maybe not. But we're going to break it all down for you.
Yeah, we're going to sort through all the noise. We've been looking at the latest from the WHO, the CDC, GAVI, and a bunch of news sources, too.
So XEC, it's not just like another Omicron thing, is it?
Nope, not quite. It's what we call a recombinant strain. Basically, picture two Omicron subvariants kind of running into each other, and they swap some genetic material, like some weird virus trade, and boom, you get a whole new variant.
XEC.
Exactly.
So that explains the whole recombinant thing. But why should we be worried about this one specifically?
Well, first off, it popped up in Germany back in June 2024. And by December, it had spread to over 50 countries. That's a lot of ground to cover in just 6 months. But get this. Here in the U.S., XEC is already causing like almost half of all new COVID cases.
Half.
Yeah.
It's a huge jump, so it sounds like this one spreads fast.
Yeah, it's got a good chance of being more contagious than the others. It seems to have a transmission advantage. You know, it spreads more easily. Probably because of that gene swapping we talked about. Like, it got the best, or I guess worst, depending on how you look at it, traits from its parent subvariants.
Yeah, that's a little unsettling. What about immunity then? There's like this whole new combo. Do our antibodies even recognize it?
That's the big question, right? See, those genetic swaps, they led to some pretty significant mutations, especially in the spike protein. You know, that's the part of the virus that attaches to our cells. It's like a key fitting into a lock.
And the lock would be those ACE2 receptors on our cells, right? I remember reading about those.
Exactly. And now with XEC, it's like those mutations make its key fit the ACE2 lock, even better than other Omicron variants. So even if you've had Omicron before, you might not be totally protected from XEC.
So even if you've had COVID, you could still get XEC.
That's something to keep in mind. And there's another layer to this. These mutations in the spike protein could make it harder for our immune system to like recognize and neutralize XEC.
So it's not just more contagious, it's sneakier too.
You could say that. And that ability to evade our immune response. That's why scientists are watching XEC so closely.
It sounds like there's a lot more to unpack here, especially when it comes to what this all means for us, you know, like symptoms, testing, treatments, all that.
Let's get into it. Let's talk about those practical implications, starting with what you might experience if you catch XEC.
Yeah, let's talk symptoms. Anything we haven't seen with the other variants?
Yeah.
Should we be expecting something totally new and crazy?
Well, the good news is the symptoms seem pretty familiar. Fever, cough, sore throat, fatigue, headache, you know, the usual suspects. But there's one interesting observation that's popping up.
Okay, I'm all ears. What is it?
Well, you remember how loss of taste and smell became less common with some of those earlier Omicron subvariants?
Right.
Well, it seems to be making a comeback with XEC.
Huh, interesting. Any idea why that particular symptom would reemerge?
Not entirely clear yet, but again, it could be linked to those mutations in the spike protein. Scientists are still working on figuring out exactly how those mutations affect the way XEC interacts with our bodies.
So it's not just how easily it spreads,
Yeah.
but how it acts once it's inside us. Like this variant has a whole new playbook.
That's one way to put it. And speaking of new tricks, one of the big questions is how XEC might impact viral load. You know, essentially how much of the virus is in someone's system.
Yeah, cause higher viral load could mean you're more contagious even if you don't feel that sick, right?
Exactly. And there's some early data suggesting that XEC might lead to higher viral loads, but we need more research to confirm that.
Okay, so something to keep an eye on. But let's say you think you might have XEC. What about testing? Will the usual tests pick it up?
Yeah, you might be wondering if your at-home test will still work. And the answer is yes. Existing PCR and antigen tests can detect XEC.
That's good news. But how do they tell XEC apart from other variants? Like if you get a positive test, how do you know it's specifically XEC?
That's where it gets a little more complicated. To pinpoint XEC, scientists need to do genomic sequencing. It's like looking at the virus's fingerprint to see exactly what strain it is.
So regular testing tells you if you have COVID, but you need that genomic sequencing to know it's XEC for sure.
Exactly. And that kind of surveillance, that's super important for tracking the spread of XEC and understanding how it's evolving.
Okay, so let's say you test positive, and it is XEC. What about treatment? Is everything we have still effective?
Well, based on what we know about XEC's genes, the antivirals we have now, like Paxlovid and Remdesivir, they should still work. They target specific mechanisms within the virus, and those haven't really changed in XEC.
That's reassuring. But I was reading that some treatments, like monoclonal antibodies, might not be as effective against XEC. Is that true?
Yeah, that's a good point. Some monoclonal antibodies might not be as effective because they target specific parts of the spike protein. And remember, those are the areas where XEC has mutated.
It's those mutations,
Yeah.
the ones that help it spread and evade our immune system. They could also make some treatments less effective. It's like a double-edged sword.
Exactly. It shows how tough it is to stay ahead of this constantly evolving virus. But there's one crucial tool we have that's still our best defense against XEC: vaccination.
Ah, yes, vaccination. The big question on everyone's mind: will the vaccines protect us against this new variant?
Well, the updated 2024-2025 vaccines, they were designed to target the circulating variants, including ones similar to XEC. So the good news is they should still offer solid protection, especially against severe illness.
So even though XEC has those sneaky mutations, the vaccines should still work.
From what we know so far, yeah.
Eh.
But this is another area where ongoing research and monitoring are really important. Scientists are always evaluating how well the vaccines hold up against these new variants.
So it sounds like the advice is still the same. Stay up to date on your vaccinations.
Right. It's not just about preventing infection. It's about making sure that if you do get sick, you're better prepared to deal with it.
Exactly. It's like giving your immune system the best fighting chance.
Exactly.
All right. So we've covered a lot about XEC, its origins, how it spreads, symptoms, the impact on testing and treatment, and vaccination. Anything else we should be aware of?
I think it's important to remember that this is still an evolving situation, you know? Scientists are learning more about XEC all the time, tracking its spread, analyzing its genes, studying how it affects people and communities.
That is reassuring.
Okay.
But it also makes you wonder, where do we go from here? I mean, if XEC can just appear from a combo of existing variants, what's to stop even more complex ones from popping up in the future?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
The whole emergence of XEC really shows how unpredictable this virus is, and it highlights how important it is to stay vigilant, keep researching, and work together globally. We can't let our guard down.
It's like we're constantly playing catch-up with this thing. Just when we think we have a handle on it, bam, new variant.
Yeah, I can feel that way sometimes. But we're also learning and adapting as we go. We're developing new tools, refining our strategies, and getting a better understanding of how to live with this virus.
Okay, so if we had to boil it all down, what are the most important things for our listeners to know about XEC?
Well, I'd say first of all, don't panic. We've been through waves of new variants before, and we've learned a lot. Stay informed, rely on trusted sources like the CDC and WHO, and take steps to protect yourself and others.
That's right. Get vaccinated and boosted. Wash your hands. Be aware of your surroundings. And don't hesitate to talk to your doctor if you're worried. Remember, knowledge is power. The more we know about this virus, the better decisions we can make.
Couldn't agree more. We're all in this together, and we can get through these challenges.
That's a great message. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the XEC variant. Stay curious, stay safe, and we'll catch you next time.
Absolutely. Every source we looked at hammered that point. Home vaccination is key.
Right. It's not just about dodging the virus completely. It's about making sure that if you do get it, it doesn't knock you out.
Exactly. It's like giving your immune system a fighting chance.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about XEC, where it came from, how it spreads, symptoms, testing, treatments, and of course vaccines. Anything else we should keep in mind?
I think it's important to remember that this is still developing. You know, scientists are learning more about XEC every day, tracking its spread, analyzing its genes, studying its impact, on people and communities.
That's good to hear, but it makes you think, where do we go from here? I mean, if XEC can just appear from a combination of other variants, what's to stop even more complex recombinants from showing up later?
That's the big question, isn't it? XEC really shows us how unpredictable this virus can be, and it really highlights how important it is to stay vigilant, keep researching and work together globally. We can't let our guard down now.
Yeah, it feels like we're always one step behind. Just when we think we've got a handle on things, bam, new variant.
It can feel that way sometimes, but we're also learning and adapting as we go. We're developing new tools, refining strategies, and getting a better understanding of how to live with this virus.
So if we had to sum it all up, what are the most important things for our listeners to remember about XEC?
I'd say first off, don't panic. We've been through waves of new variants before, and we've learned a lot. Stay informed, rely on those trusted sources like the CDC and WHO, and take steps to protect yourself and the people around you.
Right. Get vaccinated and boosted, wash your hands, be aware of your surroundings, and don't hesitate to talk to your doctor if you have any concerns. Remember, knowledge is power. The more we understand about this virus, the better decisions we can make.
Couldn't agree more. We're all in this together, and together we can get through this.
Well said. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.